if you want to drink some water now.
I've got tea. I've got like a pot of tea with me in it, so it's all right.
It failed again.
I'm pacing myself, so I don't have to run to the toilet. But
Let me see if it did actually work. Do you mind checking to see if you can see the stream? Because
the video's ended, so so
maybe if I refresh, it should be another one.
if you might have to close the browser and just reopen it.
No, because on oh no, I think no, we're back again. Okay, that's good.
Are we back?
Okay, yes. Hi, Conservator. Hi, Killer. Can you guys hear us? It's working. Let us know if you can hear us. Sometimes when it comes back, the audio doesn't work for some reason.
Oh, I see. It's not come up on your channel that it's live streaming now. It's a bit strange.
That's weird.
Let me check on my phone quickly to see if your channel's still there.
We can see you fluently and hear you. Fantastic. Thanks, Crash Tommy. Okay. Apologies for that, guys. YouTube don't like us talking about certain issues. I think they are they're taboo.
Okay, I've got it back up on my computer now.
Okay,
so yeah, I can
cool. It's alive. It's alive. Apologies to everyone once again, and I'll apologize as people come in. I hope we didn't miss it. I think we got all the super chats. I don't think purple error screen, but no, it's not.
You got me there. I don't have a flag behind me, and maybe that is the problem. I don't know how there's no flag behind me, but you got me there.
There we go. Thank you so much for not having your flag. You're good.
I have a Bangladeshi flag behind me, the big white tiger on it, custom flag.
I think your hat calls the DC. No, the hat. Don't touch the hat. So let's move on a little bit from Brexit. We can come back to Brexit. Maybe if somebody in the chat. So guys, welcome back to the second stream. YouTube doesn't like us for some reason. Okay, let's move on. Can I ask, what was your take on Boris Johnson and his flat?
I was like, I saw. I'm trying to remember the events to which I saw everything happening. Where I saw a donation. I think that's what I read. That someone donated £58,000.
Yeah, sorry, Maj.
Yep.
It says you didn't mention Monkeytron. I think what happened was the stream went down, and we didn't know it was down. So Monkeytron, Thank you so much, Monkeytron, for the super chat, and also thanks to Verti for the super chat after that. Apologies.
It crashed. Yeah.
Apologies, it had crashed before we had seen it, but the stream had gone down. So thanks once again, Monkeytron and Verti. I think those were the two that came in, and Monkey was great for putting his money where his mouth is. sorry, Madge, continue.
So with the flat thing, I was just like, I was surprised. I might sound very naive saying this, but I was very surprised because I was like, this is so open and the corruption is so brazen that, with the COVID stuff, they got away with it. I think they got away with it, but with this, it's like you can't. No, and then it was open corruption, man. I don't know what more to say apart from that, and the fact that it does not cost £58,000 to do up a flat. He's not doing electrics or plumbing or windows. He's just doing wallpaper. And why does his sofa look the same as his wallpaper? I don't understand.
You think when you buy both of them together, you get a discount?
Do you think they just wallpapered over the sofa?
I haven't seen the kitchen. I imagine it's probably quite similar. No, I don't know. They were criticizing. What was it?
Lee. What's it called?
Lewis.
John Lewis. John Lewis.
John Lewis. They were criticizing John Lewis as being tatty. Like I don't know what sort of style what's her name? Carrie Simmons has, but yeah. It's not to my taste. I don't know about you.
Someone did say that Theresa May's flat looked like a John Lewis graveyard. So, I guess Theresa May's renovations weren't the best, but I've seen they've got some weird like rainbow seats and stuff, and I'm like, is this a statement for the LGBTQ cause, or have you just got really weird taste in furniture?
Maybe it was virtue signaling.
Good one.
What was it? They spent £5,800 on a chair.
What?
Yes, I don't know if you've seen the chair. I don't know if you have a chance, you can Google it. If you Google Boris Johnson 5,800 pound chair, and then you see it's like that's it. You know, at least if you go to IKEA, they have these sort of little throne ones that are quite nice, but I think they cost like maybe £100 or something, or £200, maybe at the most.
His chair costs more than my computer.
I actually raised. I don't know if it was in a video or I was mentioning it on Twitter, but I said Boris Johnson spent more on a chair than a lot of people earn in an entire year or receive in an entire year on universal credit.
Crazy.
Which is sickening.
That's really bad. When you put it like that, I think someone put it in your Discord about how much a nurse's salary is compared to how much Boris Johnson spent on his flat. And I think if Labour go with stuff like that, I think it will resonate a lot more. That he's not your friend. He's not some a working class guy who made it or something like that. This is very much a guy who is in the upper crust of society, and he will always be there.
Yeah. Anonymous says he spent £12,000 on a freaking owl lamp.
What? Really? I can't see that one, but yeah.
Mirrors on the ceiling? No, inconsequential, please, no. No, thank you.
That's grim. Imagine seeing your face in the morning. I'd have a nightmare.
It was a golden chair, Max. Son of Viking, thank you so much for that super chat. And we were mentioning Son of Viking earlier on. Can a country die from a surfeit of sovereignty? We know it won't die from a surfeit of God anyway. Oh my God. So I want to say thanks to Son of Viking as well for posting those links in the video that I covered today on fish and chips. They were extremely helpful for an update on that particular issue. It's a video dropping tomorrow. Thanks for that super chat. What do you think? I don't know if you can see the super chat, Maj.
I can see Son of Viking. Yeah, it can die. Can a country die of an excessive amount of sovereignty? Yes, it can. You see that with nationalism, I guess, where I guess it's slightly different. But if you try and create a country that's just completely insular, it's gonna struggle, isn't it? I mean, it doesn't matter how nationalistic you are, you cannot create a country that is self-sufficient and has a happy populace. It won't work.
I think it was Graham Hughes, and I'm stealing, I think, from Graham here, but he made a very interesting. I don't know if it was his point, or he invented it, or it was someone else.
He might have stolen it from someone else.
Probably Graham. But he said sovereignty is a man sitting in a tree. Power is the man at the bottom with an axe. So sovereignty means nothing unless you have the power to back it up. And the Brexiteers wanted all their sovereignty. They got their sovereignty, but they gave away the axe. They gave away power. When the UK was a member of the European Union, it was in a very powerful position. Now that's gone.
Yeah, I guess the way I'd phrase it to show off I'm a massive nerd, and a reference maybe no one will get in the chat, but you've heard of the Justice League, right?
Yes.
So, as part of the EU, we weren't, Batman or Superman. We were more, I guess, the Flash maybe. But, we were part of a powerful group. We were in arguably the top 3 of that group, and now we've decided to sit on the outside. And, we don't look like the Flash anymore. We're like Commissioner Gordon with the, the bat signal saying, please help us. Please help us. And no one's coming because they're like, no, you burnt your bridges, mate. You sit outside. That's the kind of way I see it is, that's what the UK has done where, yes, we weren't the strongest member of the group, and it's a good thing we weren't because we probably destroyed it. But at least we're a part of something that was greater than us, and we decided to, do something stupid by leaving the group, and we were punished for it. We thought, do you watch football at all, Max?
Well, passingly.
So there's a phrase where they say that X player thinks he's bigger than the club. And so what that means is a player who thinks they can kind of boss around the manager and the other players and whatever else. And I think the UK got to the point where we thought we were bigger than the club, the EU, and we were causing problems. And I think now we've been kicked out, we realized that, things were actually way worse now. than when we were a part of the group, and that we should have piped down a bit. There's no problem with saying that you don't like the way certain things are being run, but the moment you think you're bigger than the organization is the moment you're a problem, and that I guess in a sense that you are lucky that the UK, we left of our own accord, instead of having to be pushed out. But we look really stupid leaving like this.
Son of Viking says more like Suicide Squad.
Oh, nice. Very nice. We're not all spitting Suicide Squad, though. I'll tell you that. We're more like Diablo, but nowhere near as cool. But, mate, this guy's a real G, man. I can tell. More like Suicide Squad. Brilliant.
But I think you made a valid point there about how, it was part of the Brexit mantra. They need us more than we need them. And now we hold all the cards. Johan, thank you so much for that super chat. If you build a wall around the UK, on what side will the claw be?
A reference to the claw. I'm sorry.
I'm not sure. The claw?
I'm not sure. Johan, you don't have to put another super chat in, but could you explain what the claw that means? Sorry.
Then we have a conservator, so we will respond to that, Johan. A conservator says sovereignty when Norway tells you can't fish.
You don't mess with the Nords, man.
They have a history.
There's some scary people out there, man. The Nords are the
But once again, this idea that we take back control of our borders, but no one actually told the Brexiteers, a border has two sides.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
Enzo, thank you so much for that super chat to give Monkey the hump.
Thanks, man.
Thanks very much for that.
I think with the border thing, I think they thought we'd pull the drawbridge up and we'd be safe behind a castle. But the thing is, if stuff can't get in, then you've put yourself under siege. So that's kind of what the UK has done, I guess. We're like, no foreigners can get in here or foreign products. But it's like, mate, you're gonna starve in there. I think it's not the best analogy, I guess, but that's what it felt like the UK were doing. Pulling up the old school kind of castle drawbridge and saying, haha, you can't get us in here. And they're like, okay, sit in there and die. Like, who cares?
But I've often mentioned it. It's like some Brexiteers wanted to turn the UK into a European North Korea.
Oh, that's terrifying. Boris Johnson style Kim Jong-un. Oh, no.
Monkeytron says it's the claw from Michael Owen's The Ripping Yarn. I haven't read the Ripping Yarn.
I'm very lost, my friend. I'm so sorry.
Which side will the claw? Well, I assume the claw will be some sort of problem. So I think the UK builds a wall, the problems will remain inside. We're seeing the consequences of that now. How it's difficult for businesses to export. Some businesses have decided not to export because it's just too costly, too problematic.
VAT rule changes are a big issue for certain companies as well, where certain EU companies have refused to export to the UK because of the VAT cost changes. I don't know if you're aware of that. I couldn't tell you specifically what the issue was, but they're paid on the sale instead of on the export. So when the product's exported, so I think that what it means are companies within the EU need a account with HMRC, similar to the EORI thing that the EU has. Yeah. And a lot of companies were like, well, if we have to pay 80 quid to HMRC, you can get lost.
Okay,
that's another problem.
Yeah, let's move on. I just want to talk a little bit more about Starmer. So Keir Starmer, we saw him shine a little bit when we're talking about wallpaper and trolling Boris Johnson. How do you see him going forward? Do you see him taking over? Do you see him eventually becoming prime minister? What does the Labour Party have to do in order to gain power?
This is tough because I don't want to have another guy because I've done so many videos on him and it just feels like it's kind of pointless. But he's got no energy. At PMQs he does a decent job, but no one sees it because I don't watch BBC. If it's not on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram or whatever, I'm probably not going to see it. If you see what I'm saying. So he had Boris Johnson on toast this week, and it's not even making a dent because people just aren't seeing it, and he's not connecting the dots. If that makes sense. So Boris Johnson took a potential donation from from this Lord Brownlow or something like that. Why is that a problem? He's not putting the dots in place for people to understand why this donation is a problem, right?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, sorry to interrupt you, but I agree. And this is frustrating for me. The problem is not so much that Boris Johnson's spending. Yeah, it is a problem, but it's not. The core of the problem is not that Boris Johnson is spending £850 on a roll of wallpaper, or that he is upgrading the flat or whatever. It's the problem is somebody gave him money, and that somebody gave him money, in my opinion, for a favor, to get something in return. It's an investment. That's what these business people see it as. Give a politician money, and I get something in return. Give Matt Hancock money, I get a PPE contract. Give Boris Johnson money, I get something else down the road. And these people have been donating money to the Conservative Party for years. They don't do it because Boris Johnson is a bit of a buffoon.
Yeah, I've just seen a comment from Cash Dummy about the VAT thing. Yeah, I think that was a reason why business to consumer. That's the reason why certain EU businesses have stopped exporting to the UK for that reason. Yeah, so just good clarification there. Thank you.
Thanks for that. Yeah.
Cash Dummy. Yep. So like Starmer has to go back to his lawyer and say, he's going today saying, members of the jury, this person committed murder, case closed, see you later, I'm going home. What he has to do is paint the picture of why Boris Johnson took a donation/loan, didn't admit to it, for a refurbishment he couldn't afford. So typically, when you receive a donation, why do companies donate to political parties? Is to buy influence. It's an investment.
Yeah.
This person obviously did so to invest in Boris Johnson because Boris Johnson and the Tory party have been handing out contracts left and right. So clearly, this person may or may not want some influence when it comes to contracts. That's the thing Boris Johnson has to do. Keir Starmer has to do. Connect the dots and go at it like he was talking to members of the jury. People who members of the jury who don't have a lot of legal experience, just like members of the public who don't have a lot of political knowledge. He has to make that point that one of the reasons why certain countries have really bad politics is because they're bought out by companies and rich people, and that's something you need to make the point that this is happening directly from a person to Boris Johnson. This is the most brazen example of corruption we've seen from the Conservative Party, where it's open. And Boris Johnson tried to hide it. Apparently, he might have taken off a loan to pay off the loan he got from the member of the House of Lords, if you see what I'm saying. And if Starmer doesn't do this, it doesn't land. All he's doing is members of the jury, this person committed murder, boom, see you later. And that's something he has to work on. He has to explain to people the problem.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know I've gone on a bit there, but I don't know.
No, and I agree with you. Yeah, he needs his approach, and I think you raised a valid point as well, is that people probably like myself or yourself, political junkies and people on the stream who are interested in this, will look at Prime Minister's questions, maybe not the entire, look at it in its entirety, but look at parts of it, analyze it, understand what's going on. But the general public are not like that, and also the general public generally don't have the time to do these things. They see a clip on, as you said, on YouTube, or they see a clip on Twitter or wherever, and that's all they receive. So the Labour Party and Starmer need to understand that. But I think it's difficult in the House of Commons, because when you ask Boris Johnson a question, he doesn't answer it. And he gets away with not answering it.
Because the weak, what's his name? The Speaker of the House, he doesn't call him out on it.
Yeah.
But what Starmer has to do is clip up, Boris Johnson's answer and say, did he answer the question? No, he gets a fail. Like, the way a teacher does it for an essay. Did you answer the question at the top of the paper? No, you failed. That's what he has to do, and point out the fact that, in English class, they teach you something called point evidence explanation. And it's not enough just to point out Boris Johnson's failings. You have to say what you would have done better. Could you imagine, right, for your channel, if I gave you criticisms and you said, all right, what can I do to resolve these issues? And I told you, I don't know. I look like the biggest idiot on the internet, because I have not offered you any kind of solution to any of the issues I've pointed out. So what Starmer has to do is start talking about solutions. And this is something I've been talking about for probably about 7 months now. And some people are like, Starmer doesn't have to offer a manifesto because, we're not in an election, but he has to sell himself to the public.
I think he actually did do something like that during the pandemic, where he said, we need to go into a lockdown. You need to call for a circuit breaker. And of course, Boris Johnson at the time was saying, no, we're not going to do that. You want to crash the country back into another lockdown. You want to destroy the economy. You want to destroy people's lives. And then what did Boris Johnson do? 2 weeks later, he went into a lockdown.
And that's what Starmer has to do. I'm not Captain Hindsight. I'm Captain Foresight. I am telling you the problems before they're happening. I'm telling you, you have to go into a lockdown now. Otherwise, it will be a longer, more costly lockdown. So you can sit on your hands and wait. But if I was Prime Minister, this is the thing I would do, because I'm on the side of the science. You're on the side of the idiots. You're on the side of people who want a more aggressive lockdown and want more death for people. Something like that. That's what he has to do. He has to sell himself as the competent one.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'd like to ask you. I'd like to get to Scotland also during the stream, but I'd like to ask you about UBI. What's your take on UBI? Are you supportive? Are you against it?
I might get attacked a bit in the chat. I think the country is not fully ready for UBI, or let's say take the UK for example. I think the welfare system needs to be changed. I believe, when they talk about trickle-down economics, I think that we should change it to upshot economics, where that kind of recovery comes from the bottom up. It comes from consumers who don't have to pile on debt to buy products, but, have a decent, stable foundation in which to buy products, if that makes sense.
Yes.
So I don't think we're quite ready for a UBI yet. I think once the robots come in and the robots start manufacturing things, I've seen interesting ideas of, everyone gets assigned a robot, and whatever work that robot does, you get the kind of the money from that, if that makes sense.
That's an interesting take.
I think it was Secular Talk who said something like that. It's very interesting, to be honest. But I don't think we're quite ready for a UBI yet.
What about during the pandemic? If we had brought in a UBI, sorry, I don't know if I lost you for a moment.
Sorry, what's a kipper slapper? I don't know what that is.
I think it's about Boris Johnson. I think Boris Johnson is remember he was holding up the kipper, going kipper.
Oh, right. I see. Yeah. It's a kipper. It can't be on a nice bed. Because you roars an elf and safety, and what do elves have to do with this, Boris Johnson? I don't know. During the pandemic, I think you have a strong case, because we had the furlough scheme. You could have replaced that with a UBI. I'm not sure how popular it would have been, but I think you could make a strong argument there. And I think during the pandemic, it would make sense to do something like that, because without the furlough scheme, I think our economy would have tanked hard, really hard. And okay, during the pandemic, I'll give you a win. I'll accept it. I'll say UBI all day, every day. But I think, as the economy kind of recovers, what is the amount of the UBI you want to do? Is it, do you want, a small amount each month, so then someone from full-time work can move to part-time work, etc.? It depends on the amounts, and I'm being pedantic, I know, but it depends. But I think a small amount would be a good idea. Say £500-600 a month or something like that.
So I think it depends on our approach to it. So I think we need to move. Many people see it in my opinion in the wrong way. They look at it as a replacement of welfare, or they see it as a means to just help people survive, so that they can. But they also need to do to work part time. I actually see it as something more radical. I think it needs to be something like where everything that you need. Now I know this is going to change from different parts in respect to different parts of the country. If you're living in the centre of London, it's going to be £1,000 a month is not going to cover your rent. But generally, if we take a figure like £1,000 a month, this should be enough for most people. Not everyone, but a lot of people would be able to say, okay, £1,000 a month, I'm able to pay my rent, I'm able to pay for food, I'm able to have a reasonable standard of living. Now, of course, it depends on where you are. It depends on your previous standard of living or whatever. But just say for example, £1,000. The idea for me is not that it supplements work. It has to replace it. Okay. Because as you said, and as the point you raised, the robots are coming. One of the points I raise when I start talking about UBI is that when I was a kid growing up, my dad always told me, try and get a job in the bank. It mightn't be interesting, but it's a job for life. And that was sound advice back in the 1980s. Now it's not. In my local town, we had 3 banks. All of them have closed. We have 1 branch left, but it's open for 4 hours a day or something like that, because everything has moved online. And we're seeing more and more, we can't actually rely on work, because we have the gig economy, we have contracts, and I wasn't going to talk about it on the stream tonight, but you've probably heard about the fire and rehire.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Yeah, it's so abhorrent, man. And yeah, okay, yeah, we can save that one for another time, I guess.
Yeah, but the nature of work has completely changed over the last 20 years, and work has become less and less stable. Yes, there are people who work maybe in the private sector or in the public sector. They get in, it's a job for life. But for the vast majority of people, they don't have that luxury. And we need to move away from the idea that our body and our brain is to work. That's the value of humanity, is to work. I think, we have this brain. There are so many great things we could do with it. We could create beauty. We could create art. We could create music. We could create entertainment. We could create new science. We could create new cures for illnesses that we're struggling with at the moment. If we could free up brains, if we have people, I think it's a huge waste to have people's minds focusing on moving this box to this place. We should be freeing up those minds to focus on things that are much more important. I'm not criticizing the work. I'm just saying we have this extremely complex machine in our skull that I think is being wasted on certain activities, and we need to free up those people to do those activities. It's utopian, I understand. I know a lot of people will be here, okay, this guy's nuts.
Very Aristotle-like, isn't it? That kind of idea that you can, free up people to achieve self-actualization, so they can, if you've got a person who has to work in a shop, for example, to live, instead of that, maybe they're a talented artist and they would rather be doing that. I think Aristotle might be one you might be interested in for that one.
I'm not going to put you on the spot here, but I imagine you love doing the channel. I love doing my channel. If tomorrow you realize that you could do it full time, you didn't have to work, or you didn't have to look for a job, or you didn't have to do something that you didn't have to do a job that you hated just to get the money, you would jump at it, I would imagine.
Yeah, I think I would, to be honest. Yeah,
and because you'd have the stability behind you, you would say, okay, I'm going to invest more in the channel, and I'm going to spend more time with it. I don't have this sort of Damocles over my head all the time going, look, maybe I should be doing this job, or maybe I should be putting in more hours, or maybe I should. I'm not focusing on you. I'm just saying people in general.
Yeah. I think for a start, I think a supplemental kind of UBI to income, I think, would be a good idea. I'm not 100% on board with you. I know I kind of feel like I should be, because I feel like that's the future and it's a better way to live. But I think that a supplemental one where someone can move out of full-time work to part-time work to maybe spend more time with their kids, or get a college course, or go to university, I feel like that would maybe in a way work a bit better for reasons. I can't fully explain it, if that makes sense.
No, but I probably agree with you, because UBI is such a radical change. If you present it to many people, they say, no, well, this is insane. So it would make sense in a way to introduce it gradually, or with a small increase in people's incomes. Something that was interesting, I did a video, it was a live stream actually. I wasn't with a guest, but it was on my own. But it was a video I showed where they done a rollout of a UBI in the United States. It was an experiment. It was just I think it was for 2 years. But one of the
California or something. Sorry, those states, yeah.
It was but the criticism of the UBI was, well, it's just giving people an extra $20 a month or something. And the response from the guy, no, I think it was Andrew Yang, it was a different video. It was Andrew Yang who was responding to this. And Andrew Yang I think he's running for mayor of New York at the moment.
Yeah, he is, yeah.
And he said, look, but for people at the very bottom, $20 a month makes a huge difference. And these people from this, who are sitting, in this luxury office and who are on, six-figure salaries, were like, yeah, but $20 isn't going to make a difference to anyone's life. This is a waste of time. And he said, no, for you it means nothing, but for these people, an extra $20 means, the difference between having breakfast and not having it, having food on the table, not having it, being able to say, can I put gas in the car this week, or not being able to do it. Anyway, sorry, go on. If you want to say something else there.
If you look at the kind of people who have benefited massively from the increase in universal credit, I think has gone up by about 20 quid a week. You hear stories about people who can actually buy more things and actually eat properly. So it's made a huge difference, just that small amount. So I kind of get what you're saying. I think Sam Cedar, of the Majority Report, he mentioned how when you spend money on welfare, that actually puts a lot of money into the economy because people can buy products and that money goes elsewhere, etc. Exactly. So it does really help a lot that by people, because we are in a consumer economy, people have to buy things. And once people can't afford things, that's when you have massive problems.
And we saw, austerity is the opposite.
Exactly. I think you might be interested in, have you heard of someone called Stephanie Kelton? She talks about modern monetary theory a lot. She has a book on it called The Deficit Myth. I don't know if you've heard of that one. She's quite prominent in certain circles.
I think the name rings a bell.
I can drop you a link for...
Cool, yeah.
Yeah, she's quite interesting on Twitter because it's like Rishi Sunak saying we can't afford this amount of deficit and Stephanie Kelton putting like a sighing face. It's hilarious.
Unfortunately, I think many people view the running of the economy as running a household, and they believe, well, look, I bring in this amount of money and I have to spend it if I spend it on light or heat or gas or the rent or whatever, and that's not how an economy works in a country. Okay, let's move on because we have some more super chats.
Sorry, we had the great economists in this country, John Maynard Keynes, and we don't speak about him enough in Keynesian economics. And the fact that it's a British guy, you'd think at least in this country we'll talk about one of the great minds of the last century, but we don't, and that's a shame about British history, don't you think, Max?
I do. Yeah, does he have a statue?
Have a damn statue. Give him a big statue, like a really tall one.
See, maybe that's why they don't want to talk about him, because he doesn't have a statue.
My lecturer, who's a genius, like really intelligent guy, Oxford graduate, he's jealous of John Maynard Keynes, and I was like, that's how I know he's. You know what I mean? That's
but that's the type of patriotism that's required. Looking at people who did, who were great minds, not because they, won a battle or something, or had an influence that it was, how can I say, colored, like difficult to look at. Okay, let's move on. This is from David Faulkner. Thank you so much, David. Good morning from Hong Kong. Wow, we have a viewer from Hong Kong. Northern Ireland, one country, two systems, quite likely unsustainable long term, viewed from our experience. Yes, so I think there are many parallels between Hong Kong and Northern Ireland.
Britain, just going to say that now. Wasn't it Britain that had a big impact on Hong Kong also, as well as Northern Ireland, I think?
Yes. I'm really concerned about what's the situation. And unfortunately in Hong Kong, it's gone off the radar for a bit. It'd be interesting. Yeah. I'd like to go back and see what the current situation there is. But you are right. One country, two systems. Northern Ireland was, I think, as soon as partition started, Northern Ireland was on the road to eventual destruction, because it was an artificial state. It was not something. It was something imposed from outside. And those types of states don't generally last long. Well, Northern Ireland has lasted over 100 years at this stage, but I don't see it lasting another 100. Madge, do you want to say something about that?
So it's a bit different because like China are openly trying to take over, I guess, Hong Kong, in the sense of, they're ready to just move in at any moment to dismantle the system there and make it a fully part of China. I feel like the UK aren't really like that. Oh, sorry. I guess the Republic of Ireland aren't really like that with Northern Ireland. I think so. I disagree a bit with that kind of statement because, there have been riots in the past, but I felt like it did work in Northern Ireland to an extent. Again, I don't have a ton of experience, so I am ignorant on some of the things, but I feel like the compromise for, I think, enough people worked out where, Northern Ireland voted to remain in the EU as well. They didn't want Brexit to happen. I think they were in a happy-ish place with where they were, kind of content with being kind of geographically a part of the Republic of Ireland, but also being a part of GB, if that makes sense.
Yes, I agree. We have another super chat from Tadeus. Thank you, Cantel. Thank you so much for that super chat. It's not a question, just a comment. We have another super chat from Johan. Thank you so much, Johan. Finland did UBI test result. Do the Google search. Yeah, I have read a little bit about the UBI example carried out in Finland, and I think it's something to work on, definitely. So it was extremely positive. And also in the United States, it's not exactly a UBI, but they had a dividend. It was an oil dividend in Alaska, I think it was, for a long time.
About that. Yeah.
It wasn't a huge amount of money. It was maybe $1,000 for the year, but it was, we have earned this amount of money from the state. We're going to give it to our citizens.
It's mentioned in the Simpsons film, isn't it? He gets like $200 when he goes into Alaska.
Yeah.
Sorry if it's cool. I was gonna mention, Mr. Cantwell's super chat where he does talk about Sam Cedar objecting to UBI because the amount can be brought down over time. The other problem I think I should have mentioned, Max, is that people can, rents and other prices can go up because of a UBI, because I think that landlords are going to be like, oh, this guy's making an extra 1,000, I can take that off him. So I think that you need to implement other things like rent controls and a lot more kind of, I guess, price controls in certain areas in order to stop just people inflation and people ramping up prices. Just quickly, he supports a universal basic services like healthcare. He does, and public transport. I did not know that. That's interesting. Public transport, like the government-owned public transport, not the private system we have here. Sorry about that, Max.
No. Yeah, no. Thanks for interrupting. No, you're right. Yeah. No, I agree with that, and thanks for that super chat. No, I generally agree with Sam Cedar on that. But I do feel that if UBI is linked to inflation, then you're going to overcome that problem, and it will have to be linked to inflation, because $1,000 today would cover a certain amount, but $1,000 in 10 years' time is not going to be the same. Well, we've seen actually the opposite taking place, not so much in Europe, but certainly in the United States, how productivity has increased, but wages in real terms have actually decreased.
I think that
but that's a separate issue, of course.
If they link the minimum wage to what's it called, productivity, it'd be like $30 or $40 or something like that, which is pretty crazy when you think about it. All right.
Yeah, so it's and just once again about the inflation. I think the impact of inflation from implementing a UBI, I think there is a possibility, but I think it would be limited, because at the end of the day, it's more important. The whatever inflationary impact there is, it will certainly be less than the $1,000 a month. So we're not going to see, a coffee jump from £2 a coffee to £25 a coffee. Also, because you can go somewhere else probably to get the same coffee.
I think that as long as there's enough housing and rent controls are in place, I think it should be fine. I think, because I can imagine a lot of landlords just saying, "Nah, rent's gone up." All right, cool.
Okay, let's move on. Don't want to miss any of the other super chats.
Didn't you want to talk about Scotland?
Yes. Before, because we're almost, we're getting close to the end of the stream. It's a little bit over now, but I wanted to talk about Scotland. So let me lay my cards on the table. You probably know I'm a supporter of Scottish independence, and I generally think that I'm not a sycophant, but I generally think that the SNP are doing a good job at the moment. Nicola Sturgeon is doing a much better job than Boris Johnson is. So Boris Johnson has set the bar quite low. But I understand that many people are concerned about the union. Maybe there is a romantic connection to the union. I feel that one of the drivers for me for Scottish independence is the result of Brexit. How the Scots voted to remain, and then they were convinced at the last referendum, look, you should remain part of the UK because we're going to stay in Europe. If you leave, then you're not going to be part of Europe. It was a lie by Brexiteers, basically, to convince the public to vote to remain part of the UK. And because of Brexit, everything has changed. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on the Union or on Scottish independence.
I think from my limited knowledge of Scotland, which is groundskipper Willie from Simpsons, Scotsmen are mortal enemies, like Englishmen and Scots, and Welsh and Scots, and Irish and Scots and other Scots, which is one of the funniest things. It's such a good clip. What I would say is if this is what Scotland wants, because Scotland have voted consistently for the SNP, and consistently in Westminster they have gotten Boris Johnson, who has a lot of power over Scotland. They don't have I think it's called Devo Max, where Scotland would control most of its affairs. So if this is what Scotland wants, I would say absolutely independence, because at the end of the day they voted for traditionally sort of a left wing party, and they haven't gotten it, and it's not fair. It's not fair on Scotland. And the arguments that Brexiteers made about the EU, which a lot of them were lies, actually do apply to Scotland. Scotland can take control over their laws, money, and borders. They don't have to implement something like austerity if they want to turn the North Sea oil into a sovereign. What Norway
fund,
have? What's it called?
A sovereign fund, is it?
Yeah, I think you're right there. And so. Damn Scots, yeah, that's how it ends. Archangel, shouts out. What I would say is if they want to turn it into a sovereign fund and use that oil to benefit the state, I mean, oil has a limited shelf life as is, but Scotland, if they want independence, then so be it. I just hope that they take, some of the deficit away from the debt and deficit away from the rest of us. But, they voted for the SNP, a left-leaning party. They haven't gotten it, and I don't think it's fair on them that they're stuck with austerity, because we know austerity doesn't work. England, due to population, has a much bigger say over Westminster, which is unfair on Scotland. So get Scots it done. Yeah, outside views.
So do you have any emotional connection? So let's leave maybe the economics aside, but do you have any emotional connection to the Union? Would you feel bad if Scotland became independent?
I don't know if it sounds bad, but apart from wanting to try Scotch, I don't. Also, my brother likes the battered Mars bars they do, and I don't know how his stomach handles it. That stuff's really bad for you. But that aside, I don't have that emotional connection to the Union. I don't know how to explain it, but it's like part of me doesn't care if not in a mean way, but it's like I would rather Scotland becomes independent, because if that's what Scotland wants. If this is making sense. So...
No, and it's great. It's actually really great for me to hear that, because, and I'm not being condescending in any way when you say, look, I don't really care, and it's great actually to hear that point of view, because I generally hear the two arguments. One is pro-independence or pro-union, and I think the vast majority of people in England and in the UK probably in general are indifferent to it. It's like, I don't care about if Scotland want to become independent. Okay, that's their business. I think it's probably the political junkies. No, I'm not saying that you're not, but it's maybe people who have something invested in it personally, feel very passionate about it on either side. But at the end of the day, the people who will generally vote for these things are not the people who are generally extremely passionate about it. It's the average people. And it was great to hear, someone who's, in a sense, you're being honest. You're like, I don't care.
I don't have any roots in Scotland. I don't, I'm a third generation immigrant from Bangladesh. My grandfather came here. My dad was, I think, 10 when they came here. I don't have that bond with Scotland. I have friends in Scotland. I think they live in Aberdeen. I haven't spoken to them for a while. They're great guys, but I don't. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like.
It's more a people thing than a national thing.
And look, if they want to be independent, and I'm sure they'll be happier for it, because they can actually set up their rules. They can all the Brexit arguments they used about the UK and the EU. You can actually use these arguments for Scotland, and I think that it's up to the people of Scotland to decide, because at the end of the day, my vote only gives me my MP in Northampton, who's I don't like him. But their vote, is meant to give them a Scottish government, and also another vote gives them a MP in Westminster who, clearly they don't have a lot of power. Ian Blackford doesn't have a lot of power. He's the third smallest party, right, in Westminster. So they can't do anything. they're very limited in what they can do. So if Scotland think they could run their country better than England, I guess, is running their country, then who am I to say that you can't leave? I'm not going to be that person, because I think it's wrong that you should run your country how you want to run it. Obviously aside from human rights abuses and stuff.
Sure,
but
sure, yes.
I think the SNP could do a better job than Boris Johnson. I think either of us could do. And I know very little about Scotland, and you're a man living nearly, so I don't know how much better you could do either, but I'm sure we could do better, if he's
it's no, that's great to hear that. What do you think about maybe the opposite? And Phil has actually talked about, Phil from a different bias has mentioned this, about an English parliament. Would you be in favour of an English parliament? So of course Westminster is the UK parliament, but would you be interested in actually having an English parliament to represent English people and English issues?
I don't know, because then you kind of diverge a lot, and you have more kind of pen pushers, more bureaucrats, and more people taking money from the taxpayer. And what are these people actually going to do? Like, we have mayors in this country. Some of them do stuff like Andy Burnham and Sadiq Khan, but Northampton has a mayor who's more symbolic. We have local councils and stuff like that. I don't see the point of having, the English dominate Westminster as well. Like, we don't need our own goddamn council. Like, I respectfully, I disagree with having an English council. I think it'd just be a waste of time, to be honest.
Okay, that's great. Thanks for those comments. So we're probably at the end of the stream here. I think we've gone over the time, but that's fine. It's great to have you on. So no, it's great to have you on. I think we covered a lot of things, and apologies for the stream going down for a bit. So I want to say a huge thank you to Big Mash for coming on the stream tonight. I recommend checking out his channel. Do subscribe. He uploads videos daily, and it's very interesting issues that he covers. We're quite similar in a way, but he adds a particular flair to his that I do highly recommend.
Had a nice bite.
I want to say a huge thank you to everyone who's came on the stream tonight. Apologies once again for the stream going down. Yes, I want to say thank you to everyone who subscribed to the channel, because it hit 60,000 today. That was a huge milestone. When I started the channel, I never thought I'd get more than 60 subscribers. I never believed it would actually get to 60,000. And one of the things I like to help, if it's possible, to help out other channels, smaller channels, and do live streams with them. I do recommend people checking out and subscribing to them as well, because we're all in the same boat. We're all fighting the same fight. We're standing up to the Brexiteers, standing up to the mainstream media who want just to move on from this. Don't want to listen to the voices of ordinary people. So once again, thanks to everyone who came on the stream. Thanks for all the super chats. Greatly appreciated. And I see you all next Tuesday. Same bat time, same bat channel. And remember, as Boris Johnson always says, stay alert. We're after the live stream tonight. We're going to have a post-stream chat on Discord with those who are subscribed to Patreon. And Maj, you're welcome to join if you have some free time. Of course, if you want to have a break before that, you can. So I want to say thanks once again to everyone. Have a great weekend. Thanks for all of your support. Thanks to the moderators for doing a fantastic job tonight. And I'll see you all next Tuesday. Have a great weekend. Take care. Good night,
you guys.